If you've decided that you want to start acting but you don't know where to start, on today's episode I will be talking to you about the top 5 things that you need to know to get started in acting without any experience. Coming up next on The Starting Actor. Hey, what's up everyone? I am Vinnie Horst and this is The Starting Actor. I am an actor that's new to the film and TV industry, and I document my experiences and give practical advice for those of you who are learning with me. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. On today's episode, we will be doing a little bit of a crossover. If you followed me before, you know that I usually talk about film and television, but the things that we're going to be discussing today apply to actors of any kind, whether it be film and television or theater, improv, comedy, stand-up comedy. It can apply to anything. Now, the 5 things that I will talk about are not the only 5 things. They just happen to be the 5 things that always come to my mind when somebody new to the film and TV industry comes to me and asks, hey, where do I get started? All right, so let's just jump right into it. The first thing that you need to do to get started as an actor is to get educated. Learn how to act. Now, you may think that those TV and movie stars that you watch are just naturally talented, and sure, there is absolutely natural talent involved, but one of the things that they have done is that they have spent a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears to learn how to act. Acting is a profession, and just like if you are a dentist or a doctor or a plumber, an electrician, if you are a barista at a coffee shop, there are certain skills and techniques that just are part of the profession that you need to know. And acting is no different. One thing that you want to be aware of when you're picking a school to learn your skill is that schools can often be specialized, right? So a film and TV specialization versus a theater specialization are kind of 2 different things. You're learning very similar skills, but the practical application of those acting skills are very different. So, for example, in a theater, you are speaking loudly and projecting your voice because the person in the last row needs to be able to hear you. Whereas in film, it's very intimate and interactive, and so you bring your voice down and your movements are much less. Right? So there are certain considerations to make. I happen to live in Southern California, and I have a lot of choice for where to go to acting school. But maybe in your neighborhood, you don't have that choice. I encourage you just to make a choice and pick one and go with it. Maybe there is only one choice, but you need to get educated and you need to learn the basic skills. And if you don't, you're going to be in a tough position. Once you do pick a school, stick with it for 6 months, and if you love it, continue. And if you don't love it, maybe you find another school, or maybe you find out that acting isn't for you. The second thing that you need to do is you need to learn how the industry works. If you want to be a stand-up comedian, well, you better go see some stand-up comedians and see how they work on stage. For me, it's film and TV, so I watch television and film. What you will find is that you start seeing things in a completely different light. When I used to watch television shows, I would just watch them for the sake of watching them. But now, I'm examining the actors and what they're doing, and actually the filming techniques that are going on, how they're lighting scenes. Now, one of the examples that is really near and dear to my heart right now is the actor Peter Falk. He played a legendary role called Columbo, who was a detective. That show ran from 1968 all the way through the mid-90s, if I'm not mistaken. And his character is just wonderful. I really, really enjoy it. Mr. Falk did many interesting things, and once you really start examining how he's acting and what he's doing, how he's interacting with his other actors, when he's improvising on a scene, it's so much fun to watch, and I can certainly learn some things from him, a legendary actor. Now, aside from learning from other actors, you also need to learn about the industry itself. For example, terminology or lingo. If you haven't seen my episode on that, I'll make sure that I link to it above. You need to learn how to say the words that you need to say on set, and when somebody's speaking to you, you need to understand what they're saying. But aside from that, you also need to learn about the industry itself, the industry of filmmaking. You may have heard of the director, and maybe even the cinematographer, but there are a lot of moving parts on a film set, and those 2 roles are only one of dozens of different job types and things that people do. So it would be ideal that you actually understand how all that stuff works. There are also some practical things that you need to learn. For example, how do you find work? And when you do find work, how much can you expect to be paid? Should you be a union member? These things are important things to know because as you start working in the industry, you need to understand what your circumstance is going to be. Unfortunately, you're not going to be making $20 million a picture like some of the big movie stars. You're going to be making quite a bit less, and it's important to know that. The third thing that you need to do to learn how to be an actor without any experience is practice. Earlier we talked about learning acting technique, and you need to practice it. After you go to class, you need to go home and practice. And you need to work with your scene partners and practice. You may have heard of the phrase that you need 10,000 hours of deliberate practice in order to become an expert at something. And that is equally true here in acting. The acting industry is very competitive, and there are a lot of actors out there competing for the same jobs. You have to assume that others are doing exactly what I'm saying and practicing. And if you don't, you're going to fall behind and you're going to get beat out. Eventually, you will learn a skill very well, and you will be at a school for long enough that you have absorbed all of the important lessons that they can teach you. And then maybe it's time to look beyond and go to a different school, or to start studying a different technique. If you were studying film and TV, well then maybe now you study theater or improv or stand-up. All of these things are related. Whether or not you expect that, they are in fact related. So learning other skills definitely helps round out your portfolio as an actor so that you can do different things and bring all those skills with you on set. The fourth thing that you need to do is to stay positive, because rejection is part of the industry. You just have to come to expect it. When I first started auditioning for parts, I went into every part thinking that I was going to get it. And when I came out of the audition and I waited 1, 2, 3 days, I didn't get a call back, and I was very disheartened. And at some point, those disheartening situations really started affecting my performance. I would go into an audition and be more nervous than I needed to be because I assumed that I was going to get the part, and if I didn't, that I was a failure. You got to get used to that. Rejection is part of the industry. And it's okay, it's completely normal. Well, just think about it. How many actors are out there auditioning for the same parts? Let me give you some context. Right now, at my stage of my career, I am auditioning for student films. And if I'm auditioning for a lead part in a student film, I'm competing with 5 to 10 other actors. And that's just for a student film. For a national commercial that I've auditioned for, I was told that there were hundreds of other candidates. I didn't get that one. And it's just normal. I mean, there's a lot of people that are auditioning, and the casting director can only choose one person, right? Just get used to it. Stay positive. It's okay. Continue as you were, and you'll get there eventually. The fifth thing that you need to do is have patience. It's going to take some time. I remember when I first started acting, it was very frustrating. I thought, oh shoot, this is so simple. Why can't I just recite the lines in a reasonable fashion? And this isn't hard. Well, think about it. Let's take an analogy. If we have a professional athlete, I like and I love to watch tennis. I look at Roger Federer. Do you think that he just woke up one day and he was awesome at tennis? No, it took him years of practice and practice and practice. It takes time. You need to develop not only the major skills of, in his case, hitting a tennis ball, or in my case, reciting lines, but you also need to learn the intricate detail of how to angle your racket just right, or how to use the intonation, or how to do some of the special things that make actors special. It's going to take time, so have patience. And speaking of having patience, it's not going to take you 10,000 hours to discover whether or not you love acting. If you do love it, continue and go down that road. But if you don't, if you're finding yourself having trouble being motivated to be to class, take it from me that you want to be doing a job that you love. So if it's not something that you love, you may never become an expert at it. You can grind away at it and you can have fun to a degree, but you gotta love what you're doing. And For me, it's taken about 18 months to be where I am today and to even feel comfortable that I'm acting in a reasonable fashion, that I feel comfortable in front of my classmates, that I feel comfortable in front of a camera. But I am nowhere near an expert yet. I've got a lot of work and a lot of repetition to continue to get myself to that 10,000 hours and be that actor that I want to be. I gotta have patience. I hope you'll forgive me. I know I said I only had 5 things, but I want to slip in a couple of bonus tips because these are things that I too, and everybody I think, hears as an actor starting out. The 2 things are this: don't move to a major market right away. I happen to live in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is one of those markets where there's a lot of things going on in the acting industry, and if you are an actor, you kind of want to be here or in one of the other major markets. But when you're starting out, please don't go yet. Have patience, learn those skills. When you're ready, you will go. The other thing that I wanted to mention is for you to be wary of people who are asking for money for connections. That is not how the industry works. As an actor, if you want to get a role on a television show, you have to audition. That's your method of getting into the industry. That's your way of making contacts. Now, you can have an agent or a management agency where they take a fee off of your paycheck when you get paid after a project, but you don't want to be paying for something up front just to get a connection. That's not how it works. Which brings us finally to the question of the day. As a starting actor yourself, what things do you tell others that they need to know when they start their career? Leave me a note in the comments below. Well, that is another episode of The Starting Actor. I am Vinnie Horst, and if you enjoyed what you saw here today, then hit that like button and consider subscribing. We'll talk to you later.